it often gets lost in the mix, Christmas is all about love. We're usually thinking about purchasing gifts or getting to mom's house on time or making sure the table is set. But behind all of those things is simply love. Love called out to the shepherds on the hill and drew them to the stable, just like the light of the star led the wise men to the place where they would encounter love. So we load up the back of the SUV, we risk hitting holiday traffic because of love. There isn't much love found on the interstate, but stay with me. Around Christmas, we think about being around those we love and showing love to those who may feel unloved. And yet, when we speak honestly about our relationships with close friends and families, it's not uncommon to talk about tension, bitterness, even division and estrangement. In chapter 2 of Christmas Gifts That Won't Break, James Moore asks some questions that usually go unsaid. How many squabbles will break out this Christmas because somebody in a family got mad? How many obscenities will be screamed? How many embarrassing scenes will unfold? James Moore recalls a young college student that came to see him just a few days after Christmas. He could quickly tell that she was happy. Her face was glowing with joy. "We had the best Christmas ever," she told him, to which Moore answered, "Oh, you got some nice presents, did you?" She replied, "Well, I did get some wonderful gifts, but that wasn't what made it special. Instead," she said, "I'm 20 years old, and for the first time in my 20 years, Mom and Dad didn't get into a big fight at Christmas. It was the best Christmas we ever had." Peace and harmony are not just things we sing about on Christmas, but things that we are longing for, things we need. And they are found where love is found, and where love is shared in the way of Christ. At Advent, we light the candle of love. In so many ways, the best gift we could ever give and receive is the gift of love. Agnes was born in Macedonia in 1910, a part of what used to be Yugoslavia. When Agnes was a young girl, she began to hear stories of people who traveled to far parts of the world to share about God's love. And at the age of 12, she told her parents she wanted to live her life for God. Her father passed away, and when she was 18, she left her home to go to Ireland to become a nun. She never saw her mother or sister again. At the age of 19, she moved to India, and as she took her religious vows, committing her life to God, she took a new name, Teresa. She began teaching at a school and actually became the principal of the school, a job she held for 20 years. But Teresa was greatly disturbed, troubled, bothered by the poverty of the children around her. And so, 20 years or so of teaching in, she said she experienced what she called a call within the call. "I was to leave the convent and help the poor," she said, "while living among them. It was an order. To fail would have been to break the faith." It's been written that though no one knew it at the time, this was that day that a girl who had been Agnes, then as an adult Sister Teresa, that day became Mother Teresa, perhaps the most famous person of the 20th century. She lived the last 50 years of her life on the streets of Calcutta, caring for some of the poorest and most oppressed people in the world, most notably living among those with leprosy and AIDS. She created what is called the Missionaries of Charity, who care for, in her words, the hungry, the naked, the homeless, the crippled, the blind, the lepers, all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared for throughout society, people that have become a burden to the society and are shunned by everyone. 12 other people joined her, and now that 13-member church is 5,000 sisters strong and operates over 600 orphanages, AIDS hospices, schools, and shelters in over 120 countries. It's no surprise the world recognized this greatness. Teresa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, and as you might guess, she had much to say about the poor in her acceptance speech. But in that speech is found words about love. She said, "Love begins at home, and it is not how much we do, but how much love we put into the action that we do. Many centuries before, Saul was born in a neighboring country to the old Yugoslavia. Saul, too, was born into a very religious family. Saul, too, felt the call to serve God at a young age. Saul, too, went to the appropriate schools. And then Saul, as well, found himself at a place as a religious professional having a call within a call. He thought he was supposed to be throwing all the people who followed Jesus in jail, and then he found himself as one of those crazy Jesus followers, and his name changed too. He became Paul. Paul started many of the first Christian churches. Paul is responsible for the writings of about 30% of the New Testament. He changed the world, quite literally. He would have won a Nobel Prize had it been around. And one of his most famous quotes comes from his first letter to a church in Corinth. Paul said, "If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing." They both said, if you want to change the world, if you want to make a difference, if you want your community to be different, if you want social media to have a different tone, it will start with love. Love that begins in you. Teresa, who lived on the streets and has literally changed the world, said, it starts at home. Paul, who literally wrote the Bible and changed the world, said, I could give all I possess to the poor. I could make a difference. But if it doesn't start with love, it's nothing. Like the young college student from James' story, the love that we share with those we are supposed to care for most has the power to effect great change. Jesus came as a baby as the greatest gift of love. Love for a young mother and father, and then branching out to shepherds on nearby hillsides, and then to the world. We read in chapter 2 of Christmas Gifts That Won't Break that there is Christmas when we love God, when we love our families, and when we love other people. Mother Teresa said that love begins at home, and for love to be true, it has to hurt. God gave the greatest sacrifice by sending his son. Why did God do it? God loved the world so much that God sent his son. As you receive the gift of Jesus this Christmas, the gift of love, know that you will soon be called upon to share it with those closest to you, with those who live nearby, and with the world. How is God calling you to share the gift of love this Christmas?